and welcome to the Licensing Committee meeting. Membership of the committee is the first item on the agenda. Apologies and substitutes, please.
We've had apologies from Councillor Vivian Lees-Hamilton and Councillor Davies.
And if I can give apologies from Councillor Ali Arshad, and I'm substituting on his behalf.
Thank you very much. We'll go Councillor Vickers.
Of course, I'm Councillor Vickers, Councillor Crossmore.
Andrew Marchington, one of the councillors for the Goka ward.
Donna Bellamy, one of the councillors from Home Valley North.
Charles Greaves, Home Valley North.
Yeah, Mohan Sokar, Greener Ward. Sorry, I got a big talk here. Thank you.
Zarina Amin Ashbrow. Thank you.
And I'm Councillor Eric Firth, who has the pleasure of chairing this meeting. Next item on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. Can I sign this as a true record? That's moved and seconded. All in favour? Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. I see there are none. If it occurs to someone when we're going through the meeting, please sign the form and hand it in to the clerk. Item 4, admission of the public. And there are none, as I can see. None queuing outside? No. Item 5, deputations of petitions.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 6, public question time.
Again, we've not received any public questions, Chair.
Thank you. And so we go to item 7, review of the Council's Gambling Act 2005, statement of licensing principles. Can I bring Fiona, our licensing manager, in, please?
Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all today. So we've got the first report today is in relation to our Gambling Act Statement of Principles. There's a statutory requirement for the licensing authority to review this every 3 years. I know some of you may have been here 3 years ago and thinking, my goodness, it hasn't been 3 years since we last looked at this, but I can assure you it has. Following the previous review of the gambling policy, where we did a very deep dive into the policy and did some quite considerable changes, since then we've not had any guidance issued by the Gambling Commission for local authorities as an update for our policy. So having consulted with the Gambling Commission, we decided to, in effect, not really make any changes other than some of our local changes in relation to our council becoming Kirklees, etc., etc. There is a statutory requirement whether or not we actually make amendments or not to consult. So with agreement from the chair, we carried out a 2-week consultation in accordance with the statutory requirement of the Gambling Act. So everybody that we had to consult, we did consult. They were given 2 weeks. We didn't receive any responses to that consultation. So what we're asking of members today is to please consider the policy as amended at Appendix 1 and then hopefully recommend to Council its adoption. It's a matter for you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Are there any questions to our licensing officer? If not, can we approve? And then this will be taken to full council as and when. Will it be the next council meeting, Fiona?
Yes, hopefully. If it's approved today, I will be sending it off for full council in August the 16th, I think it is. Or is it July the 16th? My apologies. So I'm losing a month.
So can we approve the recommendation? All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Now they go item 8, Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Vehicle Specification Policy Review. Then Fiona.
Thank you, Chair. So some members that have been on committee for a while will remember that in February 2024 we brought a revision to our vehicle specification policy. following that meeting, the majority of the changes were adopted. However, there were members asked us to go away and do a little bit more work on SUVs, and we decided to have a little bit more detailed look at MPVs whilst we were doing that. One of the things that we have decided to remove from the policy is, if you look at its policy, is at Appendix 1, and if you look at your pack, the Appendix 1 is page, bear with me, it's page 14 of Appendix 1. And that is to remove, sorry, my apologies, I'm on the actual, I've just printed it off, so I don't have the, is it 55? Thank you. So we've removed all the dimensions in relation to the vehicle specifications. The reason why we've decided to do this is, number one, that policy and the dimensions were in inches and have been in place since about 2008, I believe. And they don't reflect the ever-changing world of vehicles today. So, in effect, the changes that we are saying, we can't put a specification in because vehicles are changing so frequently. So to be so specific makes it very difficult. So we decided to take that out, and what we've decided to put in its place is to say, if a logbook states that that vehicle has X number of seats, then that's how many we will license it for passengers. So they're the only real changes, is that we will accept SUVs, and SUVs being sports utility vehicles as well. And the reason for the decision to do that is because actually 9 out of 10 vehicles on the road now, if you look at the logbook, says this is a small SUV. So the policy in effect was actually, you know, restricting vehicles being able to be licensed, when actually getting in and out of those vehicles is actually quite a lot easier than if you were getting into a lower vehicle. Obviously, we will monitor the situation, and should we start receiving applications for very high vehicles, so off-roady type vehicles, I can't imagine that we will, but if we do, or if we start getting complaints about passenger comfort, then that's something we can then later look at and we can bring back for members to consider. But, I mean, having been through all our service requests for the last 12 months, I can confirm we've not had one complaint in relation to comfort of vehicles or anything of such like to date. The only vehicle complaints we generally get is somebody's not got a plate on our door sign. So it'll be something we will monitor going forward. So it's a matter for you, Chair.
Are there any questions for our Councillor Marchington?
Yeah, thank you. I think a vehicle being accessible obviously is key, and if it's, you know, a hackney carriage or something that's specific, that's fine. But for private hire, so have we ever had any stipulations about accessibility to vehicles for somebody who's not got a physical disability, just for an ordinary member of the public, or is it just a question for monitoring? So, or do we give any advice to people who are applying for a private hire licence to say, actually, make sure your vehicle is easy to get in and out of for your customers?
So the accessibility, I mean, actually the new best practice guidance actually talks a lot about accessibility, and that's one of our next jobs, is to go through that and try to look at our policy to ensure that we're meeting the requirements. There is a lot within it that does specify about accessibility. I think, you know, there are occasions, the majority of the vehicles will always be, if you've got one person that needs it, there's always going to be the front passenger seat and the other two. I mean, the rear seats generally, they are more for small passengers such as children and things like that. I know, having spoken to a lot of our operators, when they're taking bookings, they will consider the vehicle they're sending to the people that they're sending it to. So, you know, we would advise that the operators, when operating the vehicles, if somebody says, I want a 6-seater vehicle, but it's going to be 3 people with disabilities, or I want a 6-seater vehicle, but some of them are children, they're perfectly acceptable for that. But for the disability ones, they're more likely to send something that's larger that will meet the requirements.
Let's just say that I think it makes sense for the SUVs to be licensed. They are higher and actually easier to get into and out of for somebody with a disability. We've all been in saloon cars and getting in's all right. Sometimes if you've got a bit of a disability or even a bad back, getting out is sometimes a problem. So I think some of us experience that more than others. I ain't got about that. But then if there's no more questions for our licensing manager, can we approve these review? And does this go to council as well, Fiona?
No, this is approved by yourselves.
Right. Okay, so can we take a vote on this? For approval, unanimous. Thank you. So we go on the next item on the agenda, licensing services update report, and we're going to hear about all the fantastic work our licensing team have been doing the past year.
Thank you, Chair. Normally I would like to do this every 6 months, but due to the length of time that we've had since the last update report, it is a 12-month one, so it's rather larger than we would normally do. So I won't bore you by going through every statistic and every fact that's within the report. Hopefully you've had the chance to read it. I think it's a very good way for us to show members the good work that we do, and it's also a way for us to be open and transparent for members of the public to see what we're doing as well. I'll just do a little bit of a run through. So in our current numbers, so in Hackney Carriage and Private Hire, when I took the figures, it will have probably increased a little bit now because I write the reports probably 2 months in advance of the meeting. So at the time when I did pull the figures, it was 6,086 Hackney Carriage and Private Hire licences we had in force. We deal with an awful lot of applications throughout a year. Currently, in relation to the driver's licences, back in October 2018, we had 2,950 licence holders, so this is pre-pandemic. The next update report to members was in December 2020. They dropped to 2,896. Now, currently, following the pandemic, we are now at 3,351. So we've not only got back to the same numbers that we were at prior to the pandemic, we're actually exceeding them now. So we are seeing quite high demand for licences within the service. In the vehicle testing section, again, I'm not going to go through it, but it gives you a very good, shows you the percentage of failures and passes of the vehicles at the council's garages when they're going for the compliance test. And if you see just after paragraph 2.7, it gives you a breakdown of the types of things that vehicles that are failing and what they're failing for. All in all, we do measure ourselves. We like to ensure that we are meeting our own targets. So we introduced some service standards in 2021. As you can see from the table, for all of it, we're well into the 90s in target for all types of licences that we deal with, which I think is really positive. Members that have sat on committee for a while will note probably the previous report, it was a little bit lower. We were having a few issues keeping up with applications for various reasons. We've managed to streamline a little bit further, and we're now managing to keep up with applications within our service standards, or the majority of them. There's always going to be the odd application that does fall outside of it for various reasons, administration reasons, missing documents, etc., or queries from the applicant. That can also have an effect on it. In relation to delegated decisions, I won't go through all of these because members will see there has been quite a lot since the last time I presented this report. I'm hoping that when members read it, they can see that the decisions that are being taken about the Hackney Carriage and Private Hire drivers and their fitness to either hold or to remain holding a licence are what members would expect of us, and that you can see that we are dealing with applications in relation to the policy that we've got in front of us, and where we do deviate from the policy, we always provide an exceptional reason as for why we deviate from what the policy states. So we'll move on to the Licensing Act and general licensing. So when I took the data in May, we had 2,309 licences within the Licensing Act that were active at the time. members will see we've had a little bit of a decrease in numbers under the Licensing Act and the applications. I think the state of the economy at the moment, and the people just don't have maybe the disposable income they used to have to be able to go and enjoy nighttime economy and go out and have a meal and things that, you know, it's quite evident in the figures that we are seeing a bit of a drop on that side. Hopefully at some point things will start to improve and we'll start seeing an increase again. So total number of applications that we've received within the service. So between April 24 and March 25, the service dealt with 6,268 applications. In the year prior to that, it was 5,982. So although we may have a drop on some sides, so the Licensing Act side has seen a little drop, the rest of it is increasing, and we are seeing that we are dealing with more applications through the service. There are some changes to laws that either have come through or are on the way through. So I think it's important that you are aware of these, just for you to be mindful of. So members may know that, remember the bombings and the Manchester bombings that happened at the concert. That's resulted in a new piece of legislation being enacted, and that is the Terrorism Protection of Premises Act 2025. People call it Martin's Law. That was given royal assent on the 3rd of April this year. And I believe that it will be implemented within the next 2 years. So it'll be about 2 years' time it'll be fully implemented. There will be some impact on the Licensing Act and some of the licences that we issue. So we will ensure that we are kept up to date with it, members are kept up to date with the changes, and that we also work with our licensees to ensure that they're meeting the requirements that they need to. Another thing that's come through came into effect in June 25 is the Environmental Protection Single-Use Vapes regulations. So it's illegal for a person to offer to supply or have in possession for supply a single-use vape. It's something that is not intended to be reused. The enforcement of this doesn't fall with ourselves within the licensing service. However, it does fall within West Yorkshire Joint Services Trading Standards. So those members that may have sit on hearings for review of premises licence in the past, where trading standards have been out and put a review in following finding illicit tobacco, they may start seeing that they get review applications coming through now, because we've got premises that may be selling single-use vapes and are being prosecuted by trading standards, which would then trigger a review if it is a licensed premises. So we may see that there may be a little bit of an increase in those going forward. But as I say, it's a very new thing, so we're just watching and seeing how many premises are falling foul of those regulations. We've also got the Tobacco and Vapes Bill that's on its way through Parliament at the moment. So that will make provision about the supply of tobacco and vapes and other products, including the provision of prohibiting the sale of tobacco to people born after 1st of January 2009, and the provision about the licensing of retail sales and the registration of retailers. So that's sort of the important bit. We're not sure who, once the bill comes through and gets royal assent and becomes enacted and we get the regulations, we aren't sure who's going to be dealing with it. So I'm keeping a close eye on it going through so that we can be as prepared as we possibly are if it does come to the local authority and comes to sit within the licensing function. I think if it does come through, it's going to be something of a similar nature to the Licensing Act. So we are looking at keeping a close eye on that. But at the moment, it's been stuck at the committee stage at the House of Lords for a while. But I am regularly keeping my eye on it. And members will be updated further when I have a little bit more information about it. As members know, we do quite a lot of enforcement within our team. We like to be proactive where we can. We work with our partners. So we work with West Yorkshire Joint Services, Members will see that over the last 12-month period, there's been a number of visits to premises within the whole of Kirklees, and you can see, so for example, 22nd of April 24, one shop was inspected. They found 26 packets of 20 packets of cigarettes and 115 oversized vapes that were seized. These again, in these situations, this is where it may, if it's a licensed premise, trigger a review of the license if they are found to be in possession of illegal tobacco or illegal vapes. Staffing within the service, so licensing officers do quite a lot of proactive work. We do it within normal office working hours. We're out and about on an evening and a weekend. We do various things from operator-based checks, vehicle checks, to premise licence compliance checks, gambling licence compliance checks, and so on. We carried out 52 proactive enforcement visits and inspections in the last 12-month period, which averages about 4 a month. And these are based on generally the out of hours, so they're not your 9 to 5s necessarily. And the table that's within the report shows you a brief overview of the activities that they undertake when they're doing the enforcement. And finally, all I'd like to do is say to members, thank you very much for your time, and if you could, members are asked to note the report, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona, for that run through. Any questions from members?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's regarding the vehicle testing compliance checks. The failure rate is quite high, I would say. I'm just interested on just understanding that retest process. So anywhere between a quarter and 40% of all tests are fails. So could you just give me a bit of detail in terms of what happens after the fail and whether the vehicle's taken off the road until it's been retested for compliance?
It's a very similar process to if you take your own vehicle for an MOT. So the council compliance test is an MOT, it's to MOT standard, and then there's slightly above. So they do a checks on condition of vehicle, etc., which wouldn't necessarily form part of a normal MOT. Those vehicles that fail, they can fail either on major or minor matters. If it's a minor matter, they have a certain amount of time to get it fixed, and they can take it back for a free retest, similarly to if you were taking your car for a private MOT. If it's a major failure, depending upon what major failure it is, at that point the garage can potentially, the officers that work within the garage have the ability to suspend a vehicle licence if it's not fit to be on the road. Generally speaking, it would then have to go back for a full retest, and they pay a full fee. So they would have to go back and have it fully retested again afterwards. Sometimes, depending upon what the issue is, the vehicle can end up being in the garage for quite some time to get the repairs needed. But the garage tester will make the call on the day. Similar to if you're at your MOT testing station, they may say, you can drive it, but you need to go and get it fixed. Alternatively, it is, your vehicle is not safe to be on the road, therefore we're going to suspend your vehicle licence.
Yeah, just to come back to sort of say some of the reasons given for failure, it's a bit disappointing that those are being picked up on annual compliance checks rather than on ongoing periodic checks by the driver or the firm. Stuff like suspension, steering, brakes, condition of tyres and wheels, really the driver should be checking those every time they're going out. And I noticed that it says we only do it's an annual check until the vehicle's 5 years old, and then it goes on to twice annual, but that leaves an awful lot of time where there might be dangerous vehicles on the road waiting for the council to check them. Is there an expectation on the taxi drivers and taxi companies to undertake their own tests and to demonstrate that they're actually checking the vehicles on a regular basis?
Yes, thank you. So actually we don't have a restriction. It used to be if they hit 5, 6 years old, they had 2 retests. Now they only have annual tests, so I think it was members made the decision to take it back to, no matter how old it is, to just have an annual test. A few reports ago, I think it was about 2013 or 2014, that decision was made. So all vehicles have an annual compliance test. In relation to them doing their own checks, yes, they are supposed to do their own checks. I mean, quite honestly, everybody's supposed to do their own checks when they get in a vehicle before they go. But yes, the onus is supposed to be on the drivers to do their own checks and keep a record that they've done the checks. Ultimately, the onus is on the driver. And if we are out, as you can see from our enforcement, we're out with VOSA quite a lot. We're pulling vehicles over. If at those points we are finding issues similar to the tyres not being worn, etc., they will get pulled off the road. If they're of a really bad state, then they will get a prohibition notice from VOSA and they will be taken off the road. It's not VOSA anymore, is it? It's DVSA now.
That's it for now, thank you.
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from because obviously some of the drivers or operators clearly see this as a once-a-year test and they're not keeping up with maintenance as they should. But that's not all drivers, is it? I presume, for the odd ones rather than the wholesale.
Yeah, I would like to say that it is a minority of vehicles, it is a minority of drivers, and you know, we do keep our eye on the vehicles and we're out proactively looking at them all the time as well. So if we happen upon a vehicle that just doesn't look quite right, we can actually require them to go for an additional test. So we can make them go for up to 3 a year. So we can say, your vehicle's not right, we're going to suspend it and we want you to go for a full compliance test. So there is provision for us to be able to do that, and we have done that in the past.
Thank you, Fiona. This item is for noting, so I move it. All in favour? Thank you. Before I do close the meeting, a couple of things. We've quite a number of panels coming up. And some members haven't completed the training. Obviously, they're not here today. But for the members that are here today, could you please have a look at your diaries when you're contacted. If you're available, please let the client know. My job is to attend every one, and I'm lucky. But I need 2 of you at every meeting. So please look at your diaries, and I'd be very grateful for that fact.
I think we've had a bit of discussion about, and we know that substitutes are not allowed to attend panels. They've got to be drawn from the licensing and safety panel. So perhaps it might be worth considering a amendment to the council's constitution that anybody who's completed the appropriate training, and at least one member of the panel has done that, would be able to sit on a panel.
That's already been raised to Councillor Manchester.
Fine, that's all right.
Legal. And the only thing, can I say that before I close the meeting, thank you for coming, panel members. Thank you for all the team that serves this committee, and thank you for all the licence department for the very hard work you all do. Meeting closed.